Hello, I'm Joshua Smith, and welcome to the last episode of Captain Cinema's Entertainment Explosion. I'm here with
Cade Cradleball.
I'm Dr. J.R. Briscoe.
And we're here to talk about something that fans of the MCU have been wanting and been begging for and hoping to get more teasers of, the X-Men. We all know the reboot's coming. We have two mutants already been introduced in the MCU. We have Namor, that was in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and we had Ms. Marvel and the show Ms. Marvel on Disney+. So, without further ado, we are going to talk about some fan casting of who we would like to see as certain mutants in the MCU. We're rebooting the cast, so these are actors and actresses that have not been in a Marvel movie or a DC movie, to my knowledge. So, let's get right to it, fellas. So, Cade, who's your number one? Who do you want to see?
Okay, starting off, I do want to preface most of my selections are based on my idea that I think they're going to go for a younger X-Men team.
Okay.
And I think that my idea there is that this whole next saga after the multiverse saga is going to be mutants based.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to run the route of like the Avengers versus mutants sort of thing, where the public image of mutants gets kind of thrashed because they're just mutants. And it's something a lot of people aren't used to. No matter how they explain it, they're going to come to the 616,
right.
Or what if we're calling it 1999
what we're calling it now. Yeah.
according to the Spider-Verse trailer. But
they really threw us for a loop on that one.
yeah. But anyways, I think making them young and sort of reckless would make sense for that storyline.
Right.
I think if you have them to where they're introduced to their powers, especially if it's if they go along the lines of the comics where they kind of get their powers around puberty, so they're not used to them up to that point. It's not like they've had them their whole life, or there's any way to explain it, or they even know exactly what they can do at that point. But yeah, I think that would really tie into the whole Avengers versus mutants thing. So let's just get right into the casting. I think for first I want to do Cyclops.
Okay.
I think I tried for all of these. I tried to think of like find anyone who has any sort of steam for like who's a popular choice. For a lot of them though, like you said before the show, there hasn't been a whole lot of momentum for a lot of people other than certain characters to play certain X-Men. But I think that's more because it's far down the line.
That's true.
I think it just hasn't gotten close enough to where a lot of people have like penciled in anybody to play anybody specific. But for Cyclops, I went with Dylan Minnette, who is I primarily know him for 13 Reasons Why, which would sound like an odd choice for the like leader of the ground.
No, he has that presence about him. He also has that strong jawline, and for a character where you don't see his eyes, you kind of need to have good face acting going on. So yeah.
That was primarily, which is why I wish we would have had the pictures, because primarily I went for all of these was like I went with people I knew of to begin with, and then also like I could envision them playing or being in this costume and making this happen. But for him specifically, and 13 Reasons Why, it's not, I mean, there's no action in it. Like, there's no, like, combat or anything like that. But he, throughout I think it went for 3 or 4 seasons.
Yep.
He is, like, the protagonist, but he's also, there's a lot of, it's more drama-filled, but he is the one that everybody goes to solve their problems, which is why I was like, and towards the last season, you see where he mentally breaks down and all of this stuff gets to him, which is kind of like a character trait for Cyclops, where he's just like got all that pressure on him, and he's kind of misunderstood a little bit himself.
True.
But yeah, I just envisioned him in the costume. I think he can play. I think he's a good actor and can play that leader role, and eventually come into like a superhero build, which all these actors can.
Yeah, steroids.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So are we just? Do you want me to just go on to my next one?
Well, actually, we're going down the line.
That's what I
so
thought.
JR, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to look at my cheat sheet here.
That's fine. Listen,
we had some conversations about some of them, but one I think, so Rogue.
Very popular character.
Rogue is a popular character, but we only saw her in the very first iteration of X-Men.
That's true. We've
So-
never had Anna Paquin has been the only person to play Rogue.
Correct.
Fun fact.
Correct. So I'm going to pick Ana de Armas.
Okay.
My decision in choosing her was I felt like if I harkened back to watching the cartoon as a kid. And so I felt like she would fit that personality really well. Plus, looking at her recent acting career, I mean, she did a James Bond film. She's done various other films where she's shown the veracity of what she can do, both not, being in drama, but also in action. So I felt like she would fit the role well. And if I'm correct, I thought Rogue could fly, right?
Rogue could fly because her power is to absorb other people's abilities. So in the comics, she did that with Captain Marvel. That's how she gets that ability, if I'm not... So she can fly.
I think it would be great to see her in that capacity.
Yeah, that's something they never did.
No, they didn't.
They never did that. Actually, they barely used her powers. It was the weirdest thing. You have a really good mutant, and in the original... you can say saga at this point, it's not even trilogies, but they never really powered her up the way she needed to be, which is, speaking of powered up, that's going to bring me to one of mine, Storm. Storm has never been as powerful in the movies as she has been in animation, and she needs to be. So, and also I have a problem with that she was one of our main leads, but she was kind of a side character in those movies. You know what I mean? Like, they put her on the same level as maybe Nightcrawler, and she needed to be front and center. She was a core member of the X-Men. So, for me, my choice would be Jodie Turner-Smith, who was in Queen and Slim, and she was just recently in the new... She might lose a little credibility with this one. She was in the new Adam Sandler movie, Murder Mystery 2. But she has a very striking look about her. She has the look.
She has a presence.
Yeah, there's a presence about her that is just a strong female warrior type person. I believe that she could really shoot lightning. That's how much faith I have in this actress. And I honestly feel like, her list of projects isn't huge, but what she has done, she's brought her A game every time. I mean, she was in a comedy, but she was very good in it. She was in a very, very deep drama, and she was excellent in it. I just feel like giving her a role like this would not only boost her career, but she would be able to prove that she is the leading lady material like Storm needs to be, is a leading lady. So that's my 2 cents. Jodie Turner-Smith as Storm. Come on.
For my second one, I went with Bishop. And I didn't know a whole lot about this character, to be honest, because I'm not as old as JR over here. I wasn't able to watch the whole X-Men animated series. But thanks to Disney Plus, I can get that done now. But I remember when Wakanda Forever came out, Ryan Coogler, director of the first 2 Black Panther movies, he was asked who we should anticipate to see given representation within the first iteration of the X-Men in the MCU. And I remember he did say, look out for Storm and Bishop. Yeah. So I thought I might as well read up on him and see what he's all about before we end up seeing him in the MCU. So I went with John Boyega.
Good one.
Nice
known
choice.
for his Star Wars. Not the greatest trilogy, but he does, because the tough thing about Bishop was he's from Australia, and he's a person of color, and there's not a whole lot of actors and actresses that fit that criteria if you're trying to be as loyal to the source material. So I just kind of went with somebody, a person of color who, he's English, isn't he?
Yeah,
that's what I thought. So
his first big thing before Star Wars, I believe it's called Attack on the Block.
Yeah.
So.
And I think he kind of fits that, even in Star Wars, you could see where he's kind of like, doesn't know exactly his identity, which fits pretty perfectly with a cyborg. So I just think he would be a nice choice, and it kind of fits that mold of a younger team as well.
And let's be real, I think we all can agree he kind of got screwed over in the Star Wars franchise because when they gave him the saber in the trailer, that first trailer, if anyone remembers that one, we all expected him to be a Jedi, and they're like, nope, he's a stormtrooper janitor. Hey ho.
Even in Rise of Skywalker, they kind of hinted that he had Force abilities, but then you never saw anything from it.
But no, we get Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
Anyway. JR. All right, who's your next choice?
I was like, that's a whole rabbit hole.
That really is. I could go all day on that one.
So this one's probably a little different or weird, but so Colossus, which you don't really see. I think you see one iteration of briefly or two in some of the X-Men movies.
There's two in the original trilogy. You had one, and then in the Deadpool you had one.
Yeah, the Deadpool one is obviously done really well, but I think I would like Terry Crews to take a stab at it.
Oh my God.
It could go one of two ways. Yeah. Terry Crews has largely been typecasted his entire career.
That's true.
He's a really tall, muscular guy who can do things like strength-wise, but be goofy while doing it.
Yep.
I think we could either do a Colossus in that version or a Colossus in the version where he can be taken more seriously and legit and respected as such.
I'll be honest, Colossus was used in Deadpool for really, really good comedy relief, and Terry Crews has good comedic chops. Yeah. I mean, we can all agree on that. I don't think I've ever seen him in a drama. So, I'll be honest, there's certain characters you have to make funny. Like, eventually, they got Thor right, in my opinion. When they made Thor funny instead of more Shakespearean, they did something right. Thank you, Taika Waititi. But I think Terry Crews would actually make a great Colossus. That's actually kind of funny to imagine that now. I'm just putting that in my mind. I'm just trying to see it, and I can actually laugh a little bit. Could you imagine the banter between Colossus and Wolverine?
I think it's funny that you chose Terry Crews because I actually, when we were brainstorming, I thought of Terry Crews for Bishop.
That would be a good fit too.
Mainly because I was just looking at all his traits and characteristics and saw that he was 6'6", and I was like, it's gonna be tough to find somebody who can fit that mold. John Boyega's 6'2", so he's not too far off, but he's not short. But I thought it was funny how he shot that down so fast when I pointed that out.
I didn't see him as Bishop, but Colossus
can make sense though. Yeah. It wasn't a serious recommendation, but I thought it was funny how both of us kind of thought of Terry Crews in this X-Men recast.
Clearly, you both thinking Terry Crews needs to be in the X-Men. He just needs to hurry up and get there. Well, I'll go ahead and say that one of my choices, someone that you've seen a cameo. She didn't have a speaking role. She was in it, but she didn't talk. Jubilee. I've always loved Jubilee. So growing up in the 90s, I used to love watching the X-Men show, the animated series. And Jubilee was a big part of that. She had cool powers. It was visually, it was cool. It was striking what she could do. And there's an actress who's on the horizon who's got a new movie coming out this year called Joyride, produced by Seth Rogen, and her name is Ashley Park. And I just feel like Jubilee needs to be someone who is quirky and fun, who you can take seriously, but also laugh with, not at. And this actress, from what she was given in the Joyride trailer, I feel like she really could pull it off. You obviously need someone who is Asian, and that's and honestly, when it comes to the X-Men, diversity has been kind of small. And you were making that cast 10 times. It's broader if you cast some mutants that really never had a chance to shine in the original trilogies. So Jubilee would be a perfect addition to this. I actually think she would be great to. I could actually see a bunch of funny scenes between her and Nightcrawler, because you have to have Nightcrawler as probably the same age as well. But yeah, Jubilee. I've always wanted to see her. Her powers was if. This is probably downplaying it, but basically she could shoot fireworks out of her hands. It's like a distraction almost, but it had momentum to it, but it wasn't nearly as she was no rogue, but she was cool. And I just want to see an actress wear the yellow trench coat with the pink Ray-Bans and just go for it. just really go for it. And that's a character that we've never seen shine, that had a really good role in the animated series that I feel like would, given the opportunity, would have fun in the MCU reboot. So, all right.
Well, speaking of diversity, my next two characters are very iconic when it comes to the X-Men franchise. So, with the first one being Professor X.
Yeah.
So, and I think when you're going through characters like that and you're trying to recast somebody who Patrick Stewart already kind of knocked out of the park,
So hard to be him.
it's gonna be really hard to fill those shoes. So I think the best thing to do is just kind of give a little, like, you're gonna have to go about it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to go through a different approach, and I think Giancarlo Esposito would be a great pick
Yes.
for Professor X.
Yep.
And it's funny because this just is kind of a testament to how good Esposito is I think he, other than Patrick Stewart, he is the best pick for Professor X.
I agree.
But I also think he would be the best pick for Doctor Doom as well.
I know.
Which, like, that's just a testament to how good he is.
Just depends on whatever role he wants, I would
Right.
imagine.
I-
I feel like if you want him to stick around, you cast him as Professor X.
Yeah.
Because Professor X, he's a soft character, he's gentle. He's basically the Marvel version of Dumbledore, in my opinion, or Peter Jackson's version of, crap, I forgot the character's name now. Gandalf. There we go.
Okay.
That took me a hot minute. Like a gentle soul that has a presence to where you know he's in charge. He is in charge, and I just feel like that actor would be perfect. And he's basically only played villain roles.
That's what I was going to say.
Give him a heroic role.
It depends on what he wants to do. If he wants to go a different direction and play
Yeah.
somebody new, Professor X would make sense and would be a total 180 on what he's done before. But if he wants to just play into being one of the better villainous actors we've seen
Yeah.
in a long time, like
Yeah.
Doctor Doom would be perfect and it's iconic. I think either one he'd be great at.
Not to mention, he kind of kills it every time you see him in
Yeah.
Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. So him switching it up and playing, instead of like the ruthless Doctor Doom, playing the gentle, intelligent Professor X would kind of be really cool to see. I actually really love that idea. Love that idea. JR?
So, I chose was Jean Grey.
Okay.
You see her in the original X-Men, and then you see her in the newer series, and then Dark Phoenix, with
Yep.
Sophia Turner
That
and
really
then Famke
crappy film.
Johnson from the original. Which one?
That really crappy film, Dark Phoenix, yes. Really awful.
Yeah, that was a. I don't feel like they've done that character enough justice.
They have
I mean,
not.
You essentially have a mutant that is the end-all, be-all of all mutants. That can make any villain freak
Wow.
out. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to think about in Infinity War where they're fighting, and then Captain Marvel shows up,
Yeah.
but before she makes her entrance, all the guns point up. It's no longer about the other. It's like this is the real
I
threat.
know,
that's
that was
coming.
one of my favorite scenes in that movie, by the way.
And I think that's what you will get with if you do Jean Grey right. And
Right.
so I think, looking back, I would want to choose Ava Green
Love her.
as Jean Grey.
Yep.
She's already got, again, quite a career.
Yes.
I didn't think 300, the sequel, needed to be made, but
She was good.
But she was good in it.
Yeah.
Again, she can play any and all roles. She can be passive, or she could be, the main dominating force within the scene. And so I think because being Jean Grey is a unique role.
Yeah.
You're quiet. You're timid. You're trying to figure out, how do I manage this? There's this power and there's this anger. Also, Professor X seems to be kind of
Yep.
checking in on me a little bit, manipulating
Yeah.
here and there.
I mean, he has to keep her in check for a good reason.
Exactly. And so you got to have that component also with no, I'm going to do what I want
Yeah.
because it's what I want.
Yeah. I will say, not many people remember, but Eva Green was the first Daniel Craig Bond girl.
Yep.
She was in that movie. She was in Casino Royale.
Yep.
Phenomenal. I've actually followed Eva Green's career quite a bit since that movie. Like, I've loved her in basically everything that I've ever seen her in. She's great in Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Particular Children, Dark Shadows, Dumbo, the sequel to 300, Sin City. Like, I love Eva Green. I can't get enough of her. She's one of my favorite newer actresses that we've seen. Honestly, don't be surprised if she gets put into the Harry Potter HBO reboot.
True.
I honestly see it happening. She could even be Bellatrix, if I'm being honest, which would be hilarious. But yeah, Eva Green is a great choice. Plus, that's a dual character because you have to. It's Jean Grey and the Dark Phoenix. Eventually, they're going to do that story right, and what better way to do it but with an actress with the chops that she's got, and also the fact that when she does Phoenix out, I want to see that Eva Green, and we've seen her do it before. Like you said, like she has, like, there's just something about her when she goes bad, like in 300 when she kills people in that movie. She's ruthless, man. It's just awesome to see it, and there's just something that speaks about powerful women in comic book roles, especially if they've never been done right before. That's why it's so important to see these kind of actresses level up, and I think Jean Grey would be perfect for Eva Green, actually. Speaking of powered up, I'm going to, there's two versions of this character, Mystique. It's one of my favorites, really one of my favorites. And, you know, everybody knows that Jennifer Lawrence didn't like being blue. So that's why she was mostly herself half of that. And I tried to remember the actress who played her the very first time. Is there any?
Rebecca Romijn.
Rebecca Romijn, thank you. Yeah, she used to be married to John Stamos, fun fact. She, if you would have mixed the acting skills with Jennifer and then the other actress, put them together, you would have the perfect Mystique, in my opinion. Which now, because of the career that she's had recently, you do have. Rebecca Ferguson is my top choice to play Mystique. She was in Dr. Sleep, she was in Dune, she was in the Mission Impossible franchise. She is by far one of the only actresses that I've ever, like, it took me a few films to really see it, but once I've seen Dr. Sleep, she played a really good villain. And Mystique is sensual, she is dangerous. I actually would prefer for her to wear the costume. It's not in this image, sadly. I can't use it as a reference. But the white dress with the skull at the tip of her forehead. I want to see that, actually. I feel like that would be a really good look. And Rebecca Ferguson is an actress who would play Mystique actually dangerous. She would be a good mix between what Jennifer did and what's her name?
Rebecca Romijn.
Rebecca. I don't know why I wanted to say something different. Rebecca. Perfect. The blend of those two actresses together would be Rebecca Ferguson as how I would see Mystique. And in the 90s animated, I'm always going to come back to that because clearly they're paying attention to it as well. If you've caught on, they're using that music. Every time a mutant comes in, like if you watch Doctor Strange 2, when Professor X comes in, you hear da-da-da-da-da-da, and then it just cuts off. It's like, that's all we need. That's fun. But yeah, Rebecca Ferguson would make a brilliant Mystique just because I know she would bring 110% to it. And I honestly feel like they would give her that costume and she would be deadly. And that's what Mystique has to be, is deadly. She was like the perfect spy. And given that we have Skrulls in the MCU right now and her ability is transforming, like that's her ability, I feel like she would even give them a run for their money. Like, she's just a brilliant character. Cade, who's your final?
For my final pick, I went with another icon, Wolverine.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, before I reveal my pick, I know that Taron Egerton has been a big... Everyone wants to see it.
I do too.
I feel like kind of the thing with Patrick Stewart and Professor X, I feel like if you go with Taron Egerton, it's going to be too close to the same iteration that it's just going to fall short no matter what.
Yeah, speaking of short.
Yeah, I think you have to like spin it some way. You have to do it some different way. And I think Daniel Radcliffe would be a great Wolverine.
Sorry for the
And
sadness.
it also is. I mean, I know Edgerton's young too, but I think Daniel Radcliffe kind of gives that like. There's just something different about him, and he's been more versatile since he was Harry Potter. He's not the same. Everybody thinks he's the same kid from Harry Potter. He's not the same guy.
Hey, that's true.
He played in a gang movie recently.
He did.
That's true.
He's a good actor, don't get me wrong, but I'm so sorry. If I ever see him whip out the claws, the first thing I'm going to think he's going to say is Expelliarmus. It's like, Jesus Christ, just give me a break. Come on.
And I think for me, it's just the kind of like fan that I am, is like when you give a name like that, I don't even care who they're playing. Like I would just love to see him in the MCU.
It's
and
different.
it has a little bit of momentum. So like I'm willing to lean into it and be like, let me get on that bandwagon real quick.
I'm just going to be honest. It would be the same thing when they cast Robert Pattinson as Batman. That was the talk of the town.
Yeah,
Nobody was happy.
Nobody was happy. It was like, really, the guy that sparkles? Literally, that was most of the jokes. And even though I love Daniel Radcliffe, he's a brilliant actor, I would have to see him. He has to bulk up for me.
Yeah, well, that's what they said about Robert Pattinson. And when he said, I'm not willing to take anything to get up, everybody was like, this movie's going to suck. And then it ended up being really good. So.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal Batman.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Both actors have a really good acting
Yeah.
range since, what they were, both had their own franchises, and then they went out and did not as popular films, things that pushed them.
That's true.
So it would be interesting to see that parallel.
I will say, I'm not going to shut it down, but I'm very interested in it. It piques my interest. I've had problems with casting before, and it ended up proving me wrong.
Yeah.
So this one,
I mean, it's kind of the same gripes have kind of been towards, Stephen Yen just getting casted as Sentry, who's like Marvel's equivalent to Superman.
Superman, yeah.
Like, he doesn't seem like if just first glance you wouldn't be like, that's the guy, but we'll find out soon enough. Yeah. And maybe if that doesn't go well, they might steer away from Daniel Radcliffe. But
I think it will, because I know we're getting off track. I'm just going to say this super quickly. I think Stephen Yen is a really good actor. Yeah. He was nominated for an Oscar recently, so he has the acting chops. I've been saying acting chops this whole episode. That's because every actor we have chosen for our characters, you have to have acting chops. You have to make me believe that you have these abilities. That was probably one of my favorite things about some of these older actors like Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry. There was moments where they did level up, and I believed it, especially with Patrick and Ian McKellen. Love them. So, JR, who's your final?
Well, going kind of off of a little bit of a controversial theme there, so I chose Gambit.
Yeah.
And Gambit, we've only seen Gambit once.
Once, yes, that's true.
It wasn't even
a good one.
I don't even know if it was worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Like, it was less than probably 5 minutes total that you got to see the character, and out of that, 30 seconds that you got to see any power.
That's true.
I'm trying to remember which film that was.
It was X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, yeah, that great one.
That was such a... Will.i.am was in that movie. That's how good it was.
So, if you know anything about Gambit, he's a Southern guy.
Yep, New Orleans.
He's got the Creole accent. He talks straight, shoots straight, but follows his own path. Bit of an anti-hero of sorts. Yep. And I was just thinking, who are people that I think that would fit? Because Gambit's tall, and he's muscular. And I was like, I think Armie Hammer would make a good fit for that. Now, I know we talked.
Yeah.
And even Cade's got the look on his face.
It's like saying nowadays, you know who would be great to put in a Jell-O commercial today? Bill Cosby. That would be perfect.
No. But if anything ever were to happen, like if Armie got back into acting, if he cleaned up his act, if he, I think this would be a great role. Yeah. There's been for years the rumorville that Channing Tatum has been trying to push for a Gambit film, a Gambit appearance in X-Men, and I think he could do it.
Yeah.
But I think Armie's a better actor overall.
Sadly, that's where it comes down to. We like these actors, but we don't like what they do behind the camera. That's where it usually goes down to. And Armie Hammer really is a good actor. He made me believe he was twins. For the longest time, I really thought he had a twin brother.
Yeah,
I swear to God.
I honestly didn't know when I
He did
first
that
saw the movie.
really well.
Swear to God, when I saw The Social Network, I thought he literally
The
had a twin.
Winklevoss twins, he did that extremely well.
Blew my mind. I don't know, fun fact, George Miller at one point was going to do a Justice League movie, and Armie Hammer was Batman. He was cast.
And he would have done well in that too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he has a great Bruce Wayne presence, and then we get the Lone Ranger. But that's a whole never.
That's not his fault, though.
No, that is not his fault. That is not his fault. He actually did the best that he could.
We'll blame Disney.
We'll blame Disney. We'll blame that one on them. I will say Armie Hammer is a good actor. He did good in his last movie that he's done so far, which was Death on the Nile from Agatha Christie's, so the same title, the book. If he did clean up his act, and as far as I know, there's not been any charges against him. I don't. Yeah,
I think he's just like this social pariah for Hollywood right now. He's like, we're gonna push this out here, not touch. But there is hope. I mean, if you look at Robert Downey Jr.
That's true.
And you think about, he had his addiction issues and everything, and Hollywood stopped touching him. He sobered up, and then
Marvel got
he's one of the hottest actors you can get in any film. You put him in, and it's guaranteed.
That's true.
To make good money.
That's what got this whole thing started.
Exactly.
I will say, the grandfather of the MCU. But I will say, Disney Marvel didn't even want to cast him at first. Jon Favreau was the one that backed him.
Yeah.
Thank God for Jon Favreau.
Remember when they were talking about going with Tom Cruise as Iron Man?
Yeah, the fact that we almost...
It's still, the momentum has never stopped since there. We might still get it.
We still, I have faith. We've actually talked about this. I have faith. Secret Wars, man, I'm telling you, we're getting that Tom Cruise cameo.
This is a total tangent. I've heard we might get a whole movie based on...
That would be craziness.
Like, based on that 838 universe is superior. But this rumor has been Robert Downey Jr. coming back.
Okay.
And then being like, oh my gosh, you must be friendly because you're our friend who sacrificed himself to save the world. Yep. But he's actually there for blood.
For blood. Which is what we like to hear. We love it. Well, speaking of really good actors... Nowhere in the same ballpark as the one that we just mentioned, Armie Hammer. But this actor is retired, but I feel like he's done so many of those artistic style films. Like, he's never done a blockbuster to my knowledge. Like, never. I've actually had to think, and I've looked it up. I don't think I've seen one single blockbuster under his belt. If they could pull him out of retirement, he would complement really well to Carl Esposito's Professor X, and we've talked about this. I think Daniel Day-Lewis would be a perfect Magneto. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Talk about an actor who would train himself to believe he can move things with his mind.
Because that's what he does.
That's what he does. He's a method actor. Listen, he's going to really try to move that metal fork. If it kills him, he's going to do it. But yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, I think either he's 2 or 3-timed Oscar winner, very respected actor. He probably would never do it in a million years, but if I was to fan cast somebody that was going to have, again, acting chops, it's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis, because I just feel like, okay, so the story of Magneto is he is a character who went through the Holocaust. That was the spark that was him hating all of humanity.
Right.
Rightly so.
Exactly.
And even though we got a brilliant performance out of Ian McKellen, who plays, of course, Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings films, I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis, if you're going to reboot this, you have to go big or go home. And a villain is almost as good as the hero. And what better way to cast a villain than to get someone who has that kind of momentum? Talk about news headlines. Daniel Day-Lewis comes out of retirement to be in a Marvel movie. It would be almost as big as Daniel Radcliffe.
But I think you're acting like it might be a long shot. But I mean, when I first heard that Harrison Ford was going to play, what's his name, Thunderbolt Ross, I was like, I thought it was fake at first, because I thought he was going to make this last Indiana Jones and just ride off into retirement, but now he's
having too much fun.
I guess.
Daniel Day-Lewis, I think, great actor. I don't want to speak for him, but I could see him like, I'm not a comic book guy.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, but when you look at his film rapport, and just the, Gangs of New York.
That was my first movie.
And then Last Mohicans was one I grew up watching. He just did that so well.
Yep.
He does a lot of powerful movies, and he strategically picks. He's almost like Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. God, what a pairing that would be too.
But
he just needs to come out of retirement.
Acting, yeah.
I'm almost positive he's three-time Oscar winner. Like, he is big.
There's another role for him. I think there's one more. It's just got to be the right role.
Honestly, okay. If you didn't cast him as Magneto, Doctor Doom is an Eastern European villain. I'd cast him as that too.
Yep.
It's because I've seen him play good, I've seen him play bad, and when he plays bad, he plays bad well. And when he plays good, he's charming. I'm personally in the ballpark of him just going out big, like bad. I want him to be bad because Magneto has always been awesome to me, and they've never really powered him up in the first trilogy, like when Ian McKellen played him, but they did when Michael Fassbender played him. When Michael Fassbender played Magneto, they really leveled his character up, and he was dangerous. I think Daniel Day-Lewis could be even more dangerous.
I think him as Sinestro would probably be an interesting take as well. Yeah. If you want bad, it doesn't get any worse than that.
That's true. I think there's not many roles Daniel Day-Lewis couldn't play. If he wanted to play a dog, he would probably eat out of a dog dish.
Will Ferrell's playing a dog.
He is. I've seen that trailer, by the way. That is so funny. I'm actually going to see that.
I thought it was fake when I heard about it.
Yeah. It's him and Kevin Hart, who is now the king of being the voice of animals, apparently. So, but yeah. Whoever they decide to cast, obviously it's coming sooner than later. They must have big plans. I've heard a rumor, and you probably heard the same rumor, that we are getting a physical appearance of at least one famous mutant in Captain America New World Order. At least one. I don't know who it is. They didn't say, but they said, it's probably Wolverine.
It's probably Wolverine.
If I see Daniel Radcliffe in that movie, I swear to God, even as a cameo, I don't know what I'll do. For one, you'll probably get a text in the middle of the movie.
They just redo this whole scene when Hugh Jackman jumps out of the cryo tank.
Yeah, comes out of the tank.
And then
it's just Daniel Radcliffe.
It's Daniel Radcliffe. God, why do I? Oh, never mind.
You know how they take gunshots and they dub in a gunshot sound like that's bigger than what the actual gun sound is? They'd have to do that with Daniel Radcliffe's role.
Yes.
Somebody else. They just have somebody dubbing over all the yells.
I mean, I'm not going to crap on it. I'm just saying, I can't see it. He either has to bulk up or he's just going to have to sell me on him being a total badass.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I just can't think of anything about Harry Potter.
But that's what I mean, the idea, like, you can't have somebody try to do it exactly like Hugh Jackman because it's just going to fall short.
It's hard.
Like, honestly, it took me until seeing Robert Pattinson beat the crap out of those guys in the first teaser trailer for The Batman for me to believe that, oh crap, he's good. He's really good. Like, and even when he was Bruce Wayne, I thought that he played a very good, like, private, recluse kind of Bruce Wayne. Like, he wasn't like the rich, snooty, like, he wasn't like the way Christian Bale or even Ben Affleck played Bruce Wayne. He was kind of still in that mindset of, I'm just going to be dark and brooding 24/7. They can just
still in mourning.
Yeah, still in mourning. I love that. I'm sure that'll change probably in the sequel, but we're not talking about DC. We're talking about Marvel. So, yeah, I feel like if we are getting a big mutant showing up in the Captain America movie, it probably really is going to be Wolverine because there's actually a history between Wolverine and Captain America. It may not be that Captain America, but there's
adamantium thing.
Yep, that's a big rumor that's floating around.
Probably going to get introduced to the Weapons X program with Thunderbolt Ross.
Wouldn't it be awesome if we see Wolverine and that's the moment they get the medal, they have their person.
Yeah.
And that's
like a whole Steve Rogers thing again.
Yep. That's how we get introduced. Like, we see a surveillance screen, kind of like they did in Batman vs. Superman, where everybody was shown, but they wasn't like they're like physically, like the Aquaman moment. Like, that was our first glimpse of Aquaman, was through a monitor. What if we get something like that? That's probably what I would think.
If you remember the Easter egg in She-Hulk,
There's already a
man with claws in a bar fight.
Yep. It's there. I still can't imagine Daniel Radcliffe in a bar fight either. But God, he's not. You want to fight me? Let me pull out my wand. But sorry, I just can't wrap my mind around it. But whoever they choose, I'm sure it's genius. Again, it's Marvel. They have basically not failed when it came to casting. I think everybody who's been casting a Marvel character has fit that role perfectly. Yeah. Who would have thought Chris Pratt from what is it, Parks and Rec? Dear God, who would have thought he would have been a comic book character in Star-Lord? We know him now as Star-Lord. We're not going to know him as Mario.
And now he might take another one over at DC now.
Which one are you hearing? Because I heard
Green Lantern was the first one that I heard.
See, I'm hearing Booster Gold.
I saw that one yesterday.
Well.
Yeah, Booster Gold is the one I keep hearing tossed around, and that seems like a very James.
Fit.
I hope not, because I want him to keep playing Star-Lord, but I know
it's
going to happen.
I was going to say. Don't think that's going to happen. And, well, that's again different franchise.
I don't think he dies, but I think this is his last film.
I do.
They gotta end that somehow.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting 3 big deaths, and one of them is him, and I think another one is Rocket. Yeah. And I think Dave Bautista has already basically told us without telling us.
He's out the door.
Yeah, he's already out. But thank you guys for talking X-Men with me. I always enjoy your company, and of course, it's always fun nerding out with you guys. And I will see you guys in the fall. Have a good day.